AITA for kicking my sister out of my wedding after she announced at my bachelorette party that she slept with my fiancé to make sure he's good enough for me, and expected me to thank her. I, 29F, am currently in a hotel room 3 blocks away from the venue where my wedding is supposed to happen in 4 hours. My sister, Rebecca, 32F, is being escorted out of the bridal suite right now by hotel security after she showed up uninvited this morning, assuming I'd forgiven her overnight. My fiancé, David, 30M, is in another hotel room processing the nightmare of this weekend. And I have absolutely no idea how this happened, or if my wedding is even happening today. Let me start from the beginning, because this is genuinely insane. I've been engaged to David for 9 months. We've been dating for 4 years, living together for 2 years. He's incredible, supportive, kind, funny. Exactly what I've been looking for. My family has known him for years and seemed to approve. Or so I thought. My bachelorette party was last night, Friday night. My sister Rebecca organized it along with my best friends Sarah and Michelle. Rebecca and I are close 3 years apart, but we've always had a good relationship. Or so I thought. The bachelorette party was at a local upscale restaurant with a private room. It was about 15 people, close friends, my mom, my aunts, Rebecca. We had dinner, we had drinks, we had games. It was fun and celebratory. Around 10 p.m., after everyone had a few drinks but before things got too wild, Rebecca asked if she could say something. She stood up and tapped her wine glass to get everyone's attention. She said, "I want to make a toast to my sister. Before I do, I have something I need to tell everyone, and I want to be completely honest with Sarah about this." I remember thinking it was a little dramatic, but I figured that was just her style. Rebecca continued, 3 months ago, I did something that might seem crazy, but I did it for Sarah. I slept with David. I wanted to make sure he was good enough for my sister before she married him. And I'm here to tell you all that he passed the test. He's a good man, and Sarah is lucky to have him. David and I have talked about this, and we agree that Sarah should know the truth before she walks down the aisle. The entire room went silent, dead silent. Everyone just stared at her. I felt my stomach drop into the floor. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Rebecca sat down and smiled at me like she'd just said something nice, like she expected me to be grateful. My mom said, "Rebecca, what the hell?" Sarah, my best friend, said, "Are you serious right now?" I stood up and said, "What are you talking about?" Rebecca looked surprised by my reaction. She said, "I slept with David, like I said, to test him, to make sure he wasn't the kind of guy who would cheat on you. And he wasn't. He turned me down. He said he was committed to you. So he passed my test, and now you can marry him knowing he's faithful." I felt like I was in a fever dream. Nothing she was saying made sense. I said, "You slept with David?" She said, "Well, no. We didn't actually sleep together, but we had sex. Once. In his car. 3 months ago." I immediately texted David a quick summary of what was happening and asked him to call me right away. While waiting for his response, I pressed Rebecca further. Rebecca looked offended. She said, "Don't act like this is bad. We both know what happened." My phone rang. It was David. I put him on speaker so everyone could hear, and he said, "No, absolutely not. Nothing happened between me and Rebecca. I don't know what she's talking about, but it's not true." Rebecca said, "You're just saying that because Sarah's here. You were totally into it." David said, "I was not. Rebecca, we went out for coffee 3 months ago because you asked to see me. I thought you were going to tell me something about Sarah. When I got there, you told me you wanted to sleep with me to test my faithfulness. I said no, absolutely not, and I left. That's what happened." My mom said, "Rebecca, tell me you're joking." Rebecca said, "I'm not joking. David and I had sex. And now Sarah needs to thank me for making sure he's trustworthy." I said, "Did you guys actually have sex, or did David leave when you propositioned him?" Rebecca hesitated. She said, "We went back to his car after coffee. We were making out, but then he stopped it and left. But that was enough for me to test his character. He was tempted but ultimately faithful." Sarah, my best friend, stood up and said, "So, he didn't cheat on Sarah. He rejected you. And you're telling this story like you did some kind of noble thing." Rebecca said, "I was protecting my sister." I said, "By trying to seduce my fiancé?" She said, "By making sure he was strong enough to resist temptation." I felt tears streaming down my face, but I wasn't crying from sadness. I was crying from rage. I said, "Rebecca, I need you to leave. Right now. Get out of my bachelorette party." She said, "Sarah, come on. I did this for you." I said, "You did this for yourself. You tried to seduce my fiancé. He turned you down, and now you're twisting the story to make yourself look like the hero. That's sick. That's actually sociopathic. Get out." Rebecca tried to argue. tried to stay, but my mom and Sarah both escorted her out. She left crying and calling me ungrateful. The party basically ended after that. People were shocked and uncomfortable. My mom drove me back to my hotel, where David was already waiting since he'd driven over immediately after our call. We spent the entire night talking about this. David told me the full story. 3 months ago, so about 6 months into our engagement, Rebecca had texted him asking if they could get coffee. She said she wanted to talk to him about something important. David agreed because he thought maybe she had something to tell him about me, or maybe she just wanted to get to know him better. When they met, Rebecca immediately told him that she wanted to test his faithfulness. She told him that as Sarah's sister, she felt obligated to make sure David wasn't going to cheat on me. She said the only way to really know was if she made a move on him, and he had to choose between her and me. David told her that was insane. He said he wasn't going to cheat on me, that he didn't need to be tested, and that this was an inappropriate boundary. He got up to leave. Rebecca followed him to his car and kept trying to convince him. She said she just needed to know. She said Sarah was her sister, and she cared about her. She even tried to kiss him at his car. David pushed her away and told her this was not happening. He said he was leaving and that she needed to not contact him again with this kind of stuff. He drove back to his office and told his coworker Tom what happened because he needed to process it with someone. Tom confirmed the story to me later when I called him to verify. David said he was going to tell me, but he didn't want to cause drama between me and Rebecca. He said he figured Rebecca might have been going through something personal, and this was a weird expression of that. He figured if he just ignored it and maintained boundaries, it would go away. But he always planned to tell me before the wedding if it escalated or if he felt it was necessary, and now that it had come out, he regretted not saying something sooner. Now we're here. My wedding is in 4 hours. Rebecca announced her inappropriate behavior at my bachelorette party, exposed David to humiliation and suspicion, and expected me to thank her. I have several things I need to decide immediately. 1. Is my wedding still happening today? 2. Do I want Rebecca at my wedding? 3. Do I need to tell my extended family what happened? 4. What does this mean for my relationship with Rebecca? Let me address each one. 1. Is my wedding still happening? David and I have talked, and we're both still committed. This wasn't his fault. He was honest, he maintained boundaries, and he was going to eventually tell me. I believe him. I trust him. And I'm not going to let Rebecca's weirdness derail my life. 2. Do I want Rebecca at my wedding? Absolutely not. She has proven that she can't be trusted around my fiancé. She tried to seduce him to test him. That's not protective. That's manipulative. She's not invited to my wedding. My mom is upset about this, but I've made my position clear. 3. Do I need to tell my extended family? My mom and my aunts already know what happened at the bachelorette party. They're shocked and disappointed in Rebecca. I'm not going to spend my wedding day explaining Rebecca's behavior to relatives. That's her burden to carry. 4. What does this mean for my relationship with Rebecca? I don't know yet. Right now, I'm so angry that I can't think past today. She violated boundaries, she lied, she tried to manipulate me and David. I need time and distance to figure out if there's any coming back from this. My wedding planner has been informed that Rebecca is not welcome. My mom has been informed. David has been informed. Everyone is ready to support me today, even without my sister there. So, am I in the wrong for kicking my sister out of my wedding? I don't think so. But I'm writing this before the ceremony happens because I need to know if I'm making the right call. Update 1. The same day evening. My wedding happened. It was beautiful. It was everything I wanted it to be. And it was bittersweet because my sister wasn't there. Walking down the aisle, I looked at the guest list and noticed the empty seat that would have been Rebecca's. I felt a pang of sadness because despite everything she did, she's still my sister. But then I remembered what she did, and the sadness was replaced by anger. The ceremony went perfectly. David and I exchanged vows that we'd written ourselves. We cried. We laughed. We married each other. At the reception, my mom gave a toast that addressed the elephant in the room without being explicit. She talked about family loyalty, about trust, about true love requiring honesty and respect. It was beautiful and pointed. Several people came up to me afterward and asked where Rebecca was. I told them she wasn't able to attend due to personal reasons, and I left it at that. My best friend Sarah gave a toast that was hilarious and touching. She talked about David being tested and approved, a clear reference to Rebecca's weirdness, which was already spreading through the guest list via whispers. It got a big laugh because everyone knew what she meant. David's toast was emotional. He talked about trusting me, believing in our future, and being grateful for my support through a weird situation that happened recently. Everyone knew what he meant. The dancing was fun. The food was incredible. The night was amazing. But there was this underlying sadness that my sister wasn't there. Not as a guest, but as part of my family, as part of my support system on one of the biggest days of my life. After the reception ended and David and I were in our hotel suite, I finally let myself cry. I cried about the betrayal. I cried about losing my sister in a way. I cried about the fact that Rebecca had done something so inappropriate and couldn't understand why I was angry. David held me and said, "You did the right thing. She made a choice, and you made a choice in response to that choice. That's not cruel. That's protecting yourself." He's right, but it still hurts. Update 2. 3 days later. The wedding was on Saturday. It's now Tuesday. I've been in my honeymoon headspace, trying to compartmentalize the Rebecca situation so I can enjoy my new marriage. But I couldn't ignore what happened at my bachelorette party. I needed to talk to Rebecca face to face. I needed to understand what she was thinking and whether she understood the severity of what she did. So I called her. She answered on the third ring. I said, "We need to talk." She said, "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I was upset that you kicked me out, but I've been thinking about it and I understand why you did. I crossed a line, and I shouldn't have done what I did. I'm sorry." I was surprised. I expected her to be defensive or angry. I didn't expect an apology. I said, "I need to understand what you were thinking. Help me understand." Rebecca said, "I don't know. I think I was scared for you. David is great, but he was just some guy who was going to marry you and potentially hurt you. I wanted to make sure he was trustworthy. I wanted to protect you." I said, "By trying to seduce him?" She said, "I wasn't trying to seduce him. I was testing him." I said, "Rebecca, you kissed him without his consent. You tried to pressure him into cheating on me. That's not a test. That's not protection. That's assault." Rebecca got quiet. Then she said, "I didn't think about it like that." I said, "How else would you think about it? You came on to my fiancé. You tried to make him cheat. When he refused, you accused him of lying about it at my bachelorette party. You twisted the story so that you were the hero, and he was the one who cheated even though he didn't. You lied to a room full of people about your own sister's relationship. That's not protection, Rebecca. That's betrayal." Rebecca was crying. She said, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was trying to help." I said, "But you didn't help. You made things worse. You violated my relationship. You violated David. And then you expected me to be grateful for it. That's not okay." Rebecca said, "What do you want me to do? How do I fix this?" I said, "I don't know if it can be fixed. Not right now. I need space. A lot of space. I'm not ready to forgive you, and I don't know when I will be." Rebecca said, "Are you saying you don't want to see me anymore?" I said, "I'm saying I don't know what our relationship looks like right now. I need time." Rebecca said, "Okay, I understand. I'm sorry, Sarah. I really am." I said, "I know you are, but I'm not ready to accept that apology yet. Goodbye, Rebecca." I hung up. Update 3. 1 month after the wedding. I've been married for a month now. Honeymoon was beautiful. We went to Hawaii, and I tried not to think about Rebecca or the drama. But I've been thinking about the situation more clearly now that I have distance. Rebecca violated multiple boundaries. 1. She tried to kiss David without his consent. 2. She lied about what happened at my bachelorette party. 3. She tried to manipulate the narrative to make herself the hero. 4. She exposed something private between me and my fiancé to a room full of people. 5. She did all of this without asking permission, without being invited to do so, and without considering how it would affect me or David. These are serious violations. Not just relationship violations, but boundary and respect violations. I called my therapist, and we discussed the situation. She helped me understand that while Rebecca's motivations might have come from a place of caring, her actions were controlling and inappropriate. She said Rebecca crossed a line and needs to understand the severity of what she did. My therapist also pointed out that Rebecca's test mentality is concerning. It suggests that Rebecca doesn't trust people easily, or that she has anxiety about people she cares about getting hurt. Either way, that's something Rebecca needs to work through with a professional. I've decided that I'm willing to work toward a relationship with Rebecca, but it has to come with conditions. 1. Rebecca needs to understand that what she did was wrong. 2. Rebecca needs to go to therapy and work on her issues. 3. Rebecca needs to apologize genuinely, not just say the words. 4. I need to see consistent behavior change over time. 5. We need to rebuild trust slowly. I called Rebecca and told her these things. She was receptive. She said she would start therapy right away. She said she understood why I was hurt and angry. Whether she actually follows through remains to be seen, but I'm willing to give her a chance to earn back my trust. Update 4. 3 months after the wedding. Rebecca has been going to therapy for about 2 months now, having started shortly after our call a month after the wedding. She's been texting me updates about what she's working on. She's learning about boundaries, about anxiety, about controlling behaviors. She's doing the work. She hasn't asked to see me yet. She said she wants to wait until she's made more progress, so she can apologize from a place of genuine understanding rather than just saying sorry. I appreciate that. It shows maturity and awareness. David has been supportive throughout this whole situation. He's also been in therapy processing the boundary violation that happened with Rebecca. His therapist has helped him understand that Rebecca's behavior wasn't his fault, and that he did the right thing by maintaining boundaries and being honest about what happened. David and I have used this situation as an opportunity to talk about boundaries in our relationship. We've agreed that if either of us experiences a boundary violation from someone close to us, we'll talk about it immediately rather than keeping it secret to avoid drama. Our marriage is strong. This situation didn't damage our trust in each other. It actually strengthened it because we handled it honestly and together. My relationship with Rebecca is still being rebuilt. She's still in therapy. I'm still processing the betrayal, but there's a path forward, and I'm cautiously optimistic about it. Final update. 6 months after the wedding. Rebecca called me yesterday and asked if we could have coffee. I said yes. We met at a coffee shop near my house. Rebecca looked nervous. She sat down and took a deep breath. She said, "I've been in therapy for 5 months now. I've done a lot of work on understanding why I did what I did. I want to apologize to you. Truly apologize, not just say the words." She continued, "I was controlling. I didn't trust your judgment. I didn't trust David. I was anxious about you getting hurt, and instead of just being supportive, I tried to control the situation. I tried to test David as if that was my right, as if I had any authority to do that. I didn't." Rebecca paused and collected herself. "What I did was a boundary violation. I tried to kiss your fiancé without his consent. I lied about what happened. I embarrassed you and David publicly. I was cruel and selfish, and I tried to make it seem like I was being noble and protective. I wasn't." She looked me in the eyes. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry for violating your relationship. I'm sorry for violating David. I'm sorry for the public humiliation. I'm sorry for being a terrible sister. And I understand if you're not ready to forgive me. But I want you to know that I see what I did now, and I'm working on being better." I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said, "Thank you for going to therapy, for doing the work, for this apology. It means a lot." Rebecca said, "Does this mean we can rebuild our relationship?" I said, "It means I'm open to it, but slowly. I need to see consistent behavior change. I need to know that you've really worked through these issues. I need to trust that this won't happen again." Rebecca said, "I understand. I'm committed to that. David and I have had Rebecca over for dinner a few times in the past month. It's awkward sometimes, but it's getting better. Rebecca is careful around David, respectful, friendly, but maintaining clear boundaries. David has forgiven Rebecca, though he's also cautious. He's supportive of me rebuilding a relationship with my sister, but he's also protective of our marriage. I've forgiven Rebecca, though I haven't forgotten what happened. We're rebuilding, slowly and carefully. Was I wrong to kick Rebecca out of my wedding? No. She violated boundaries and lied. She needed consequences. Was I wrong to eventually work toward rebuilding the relationship? No. She did the work. She understood what she did wrong, and she's committed to being better. The situation taught me that family relationships require work. They require boundaries. They require honesty. And they require consequences when those boundaries are violated. Rebecca and I have a new relationship now, not based on blind loyalty or automatic forgiveness, but based on mutual respect, understanding, and the willingness to work through difficult things. I'm glad my sister is back in my life, but I'm also glad I stood up for myself and David. I'm glad I didn't just forgive and forget. I'm glad I gave Rebecca the opportunity to do better, and I'm glad she took it. My marriage is stronger because of how we handled the situation. My relationship with Rebecca is healthier because we had to work through it. And I'm stronger because I learned to protect myself while still leaving room for people to grow and change.